Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Lethal Venom podcast. This is a show where I talk about anything I want with the honest to God truth, no lies told. Today, I am joined by Bob LeMent. He is going to be our guest today. We're just going to do a little bit of pop culture news today. Bob, thank you for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me. You having a good day so far?
I am. Woke up about 15 minutes ago. So starting the day, and then I gotta after this do DoorDash for about 2.5 hours. So
Okay.
that's gonna be fun.
Do you, I guess I'm assuming from that is a little bit sarcastic tone. So DoorDash is a necessity rather than a passion.
Yeah, more likely it's more of a I'm having to do it because job hunting here's been a pain.
Yeah.
I have gone everywhere, like to I think I've gone I've gone to like other places and like they've all said no,
Mhm.
which took months because I think I applied there. I actually forgot that I had applied there, and then one night at like midnight, they send out an email saying, "Oh, you didn't get the job." I thought I
You're like,
said,
what? I didn't midnight, of course. Are they
I
even
said,
open at midnight? I mean, Five Below. I guess that's just whenever the robot sends out the email.
I don't know. I was just like, I was, I was like, okay, well, let's add that to the list of places I've been told no. And then I actually had done DoorDash before. I did it, a year ago back in
Mhm.
my hometown. I live in a very small farm town. And so it wasn't popular there. It's mostly, elderly people that live there. So I was kind of
Mhm.
surprised that they knew what DoorDash was.
Well, I mean, it's that if you think about it, that's the perfect customer, right? If they can do that, because then you have maybe you don't have just yourself, and you don't want to buy a bunch of food, so just get it
Right.
delivered. I'm
I
surprised it's not called Meals on Wheels.
Right. I was so I did that for about a year, and then when I came to Auburn I did it here, and I think I did it
Mhm.
for about I think ma majority of the second year I was here. And then last year I stopped doing it because I do summer classes
Mhm.
for from like all last year I was doing all kinds of schoolwork from like January to December. I was doing schoolwork every day
Mhm.
to be able to graduate on time.
Yeah.
And so I quit doing that, and then this year I've been fighting, and my mom and I have been having arguments about it. And I said, Mom, I think we're at that point where I need to start doing DoorDash again. Because I had mentioned it like a month or two ago, and she said, I really don't want you doing that because it does wear and tear on your car. And I was telling her, I said, well, I think we're at that point where we don't have an option because
You
it's a,
got to make
I,
some
s-
cash, man. Come on.
I was like, I still have the job. So, I mean, I can just start scheduling and start doing it again. And
Mhm.
she said, well, I guess you could try it again and see what you do. And I've been making pretty okay. It's just
Mhm.
been starting out there. Um, but it's going. It's not what I want to do, but it's a start and it's getting some extra income to come in.
Right. Yeah. So what's the major? What's your ultimate goal for graduation then?
I graduated with a degree in journalism. I did
Okay.
that. And so the dream is to have my own talk show.
Gotcha.
That's the realm I'm wanting to go in, and that's been more of a it's been difficult finding a job in that field. I've looked
Mhm.
into magazines, newspapers, radio, and they're just all not looking right now.
Right. Well, yeah, we're in a weird time, I think, with a lot of things where, everybody's wondering what's going to happen. And so everybody's like, I don't want to do anything right now because, everything's so up in the air, it's just all everywhere. So, nobody wants to make a big decision or commit to anything at this point because they don't know what's going to happen. I think we felt like we knew what was going to happen, 6 months
Mm.
ago, 9 months ago. And now everybody's like, I don't know what's going to happen. And so
Job
therefore that's where you have those situations, right? I'm not going to commit to anything.
Job hunting's so different now than when I was growing up. Like I was born in 2002, and even like growing up in the 2000s, and even when I was in middle school and high school, it was like j getting a job was not even a difficult thing. And then with COVID, when the pandemic happened, and it's like it just changed.
Yeah, it shook everything upside down.
And now it's like nowhere wants to hire you. And it's a pain because I've done everywhere. And someone told me recently, I asked them, I said, I don't know why I'm getting denied everywhere. And then
Mhm.
one of my friends pointed out that said, well, what could be happening is you're in kind of in between
Mm.
where some of these jobs, like and all these, are not wanting to hire people that have a college education because they'll want to be paid more.
Right. Well, and you're hoping for something else, right? You're hoping for something with your degree. And so
Right.
you're temporary. You're very temporary at that point.
Right. And so he said that you're kind of in that in between where these normal department store jobs are wanting mostly high school and maybe college kids that are still in school because they're not going to
Mm.
want to ask much for hourly pay. And then
Right.
you're also in that realm of you also don't have the experience because that's been the main problem I've had with the journalism field is that I don't have the experience.
Yeah.
They're wanting 2+ years of experience, and I barely even have 1 year. And
Mhm.
so it's a pain. I'm just stuck in the middle of no experience and I'm too overqualified.
Well, here's the great thing about the internet age, right? So, experience wise, if you so do you want to write more or do you want to be a voice or a face? What are you thinking?
I
Or
surprisingly write
all of them, you know.
probably all. I'm actually surprised
Oh.
that I can write well. I actually had one of my professors tell me that I was like one of the best writers she had in the class.
So the great thing you can do is, I mean, with what you're doing here and so forth, is just expand upon it, and then the now all this stuff is niche, right? So you got to find a niche, and so that niche may be, whatever your interest is, but it doesn't have to be your interest. But you could be local politics. It could be, your niche is like you looking for jobs. You could do something that's just about finding jobs and your experiences going out. And you're like, sent me a note at midnight and I didn't even remember ever interviewing with them and they said I didn't get the job. I mean, that could be the niche. And so you take that niche and then kind of do the triple thing where you do some video, you do some writing, you do some podcasting, which would be or mainly audio. Podcasting now is blurred between video and audio, but historically it's been mostly audio, but anymore now it's both. But you do all that and you wrap it into this niche and come up with a kind of a catchy title for it, and then you've basically got your own publication, your own way to produce things, and then you do that for a while as you're looking, and then that becomes your experience. You're like, well, I've because people are gonna what they're gonna do is everybody's on the metrics now, right? So they're all like, well, I took this idea and then, I'm on YouTube, I've got this many subscribers and this many views. I'm on Instagram, I got this many followers. And so they're all under the metrics. And so basically you work the metrics. And then whenever you go in for your interview, you're like, what do you do? And then you just play that as a business. Essentially you work for yourself, right? But you're like, I
Mhm.
work for this website and here's the website. And, if they decide to pick around, they'll find out it's just you. But the reality is, chances are they won't. As long as it looks good and sounds good, they'll be like, okay, this guy's been writing. You have your timestamps from when you started writing and posting things, and then that gives you your timeline to having been there, right? And so, Substack is another avenue for a lot of people, especially for writing. But you can do, video and audio on there as well. And you just do a Substack and get subscribers. I mean, it's crazy now, how much you can do on your own with, fairly modest resources. You don't have to have a lot of resources, especially if you're going to cover like local politics or something. Nobody wants to do that, honestly, right? And that's what you
Right.
get stuck doing whenever you're in journalism. When you first come in
Hmm.
to journalism, right, you do obituaries and you do local politics. And so that's the entry for that. And so if you did something like that, then you're primed to come in the door, right? You've done all this stuff, going to meetings and giving your opinions and what's happening and so forth. And that's the kind of grunt work that they will have you do and or look for, right? As you go forward, everybody doesn't get to start off as the star. Everybody has to, there's a star on there somewhere, and they don't want to lose their position, so they don't want you to come in and knock them out. So you kind of have to work your way through the process. But nowadays, it's so much easier to do that because there's all these tools and all this freedom in essence. Like you're doing the show, right? And so it gives you that outlet to build a portfolio. It gives you that outlet to build experience, and it gives you an outlet to then showcase yourself whenever you're going to do those kind of things. And the other thing is, I because you're a fairly young guy, right?
Hmm.
Fake it till you make it. And so just do the best fake whatever that you can do, and don't worry about don't think about it. Just I'm going to make it. I want to make it look as legit as possible, even though it's only me doing it. You don't need to tell them that. They can find that out on their own. That's their job. Their job is to do that. Your job is to make yourself look really good and give them material that says I can do something. That's your job. Their job is to say, oh, they go look at it and they're like, well, this is just Noah. But I'll be honest with you, half the time they never look. They're all so busy. They're just like, I need the best person in this position so that I don't have to do it.
Right.
Right. So they can do it, not me.
Hmm.
And so as long as you can put yourself forward and say I'm the best person, then I mean that helps you tremendously. I mean, every once in a while you might find somebody be like, oh, he's just doing his own, podcast or something. But it still takes something. I mean, it still takes effort, and if you can do things that are pleasing to yourself, that's I always think that's a number one for me is I have to do something that's going to be something that I like to do, but then also something that will benefit your experience and so forth going forward. That's the part that you're kind of want to concentrate on, especially in this early stage and so forth. And the other thing is journalism is not just media I mean, literally with journalism you could write manuals and do all kinds of weird. There's all these jobs that entail people writing, and to be honest with you, most people coming out of college or high school or anything have no clue how to write. It is a skill. It is a skill that's learned, and it's a skill that you build upon, and it is most your average person out there couldn't write themselves out of anything. And so, and yes, we have AI, which is a big threat to everybody, but you can't, focus on anything like that. The reality is that already we're seeing where people are like, if you read things in all the comments, well, this is a bunch of AI crap, right? And people are onto it and they don't like it. I mean, some people don't know or whatever, but a lot of people are like, this is all AI crap. And so if you can, be above the fray on that, it helps. It's going to help you too. But that's, kind of I know that we were going to talk about pop culture when you said that, but since you mentioned this, I mean, this is kind of an interesting topic area because, you're primed coming out of college with your degree to take advantage of all these things that we have today that we didn't have even 10 years ago, with creating media and creating your own media. So, take advantage of all that. That's what I say.
The main thing I've had is that for journalism, usually, and it's a stereotype that, and I've witnessed this too in classes where majority of the guys that do journalism go into the sports field. I
Right. Yeah.
remember I can't remember what class it was, but it was in one of the big lecture halls. I had like 300 kids in there. And I think we had a guest come and speak to us. And I think one of the questions was, how many of you in here is going into sports? I think 98% of the guys in there raised their hand. And it's a question I've gotten asked so many times. When I say journalism, they automatically go, oh, so you're going into sports.
Hmm.
No, it's a stereotype that most people have for guys because it's a manly thing to talk about, and they're like, oh, well, journalism and sports go together, so that obviously
Right.
means you're doing sports. Not necessarily. I know I think one of the classmates I had does sports and does like a sports podcast and does very much basketball, football, and all this stuff,
Hmm.
and it kind of. And like, if that's the route that he wants to go down, that's fine. But I don't like it when people always are like, "Oh, you're going to sports." No, I'm more like pop culture. I'm more news based and interview style. That's kind of like
Mhm.
more of my journalism realm. I know. A minute ago you said something about AI. What's your honest opinion about AI?
Right now, oh yeah, let's talk about AI because it's all in the news and so forth. They keep using right now, we're what in the phrase of things that I like to call the big sell. They've done this over and over again. Every new trending topic, there's the big sell. They're trying to sell everybody on AI right now because it's not really intelligence. It's you have machines that can do things quicker than a human being, way quicker than a human being, and so they can filter through millions of entries on something and distill it down and give it to you, right? But that's not intelligence, right? Because if you've ever used any AI tools or anything, sometimes it comes up with stuff that just doesn't make any sense. And then you refine it by asking it another question, and then it starts making more sense. They're almost like palm readers in a way, because when a palm reader, if there's an unethical palm reader, if I don't know if there's ethical palm readers, but palm reader will be like, oh, you're gonna have an adventure, and then you're like, what kind of adventure? And then it becomes this honing down. Well, that's exactly what AI does right now. It's like, well, it's gonna be in a desert, and so you're doing the work to hone everything down. They're just have the ability to grab everything and distill it really, really quickly. It doesn't make decisions, right? It doesn't know who you are. It can't, we've had this conversation, about the sports and so forth.
Hmm.
It wouldn't, you'd have to give it all this information where I can glean from a very small amount of, you just mentioned it, that okay, this guy, he's not going to be a sports guy. He's going to be in some other area of journalism. And it's not intelligent like that. So it's not intelligent like us. It's intelligent in the sense of the machine can operate so fast. And so we've probably still got a little more time. I mean, there may be models out there that actually have some type of ability to think, but that's not what you're using, right? The Geminis and the co-pilots and Claudes of the world and Chat GPTs of the world, they are next generation chat, right? So, or not chat, I mean, they're next generation search with the ability to chat with you. So it makes
Hmm.
search easier for people because then you can say, hey, how about this? Or hey, how about that? And I think a lot of people still use all these things just like they use search engines. It's just instead of giving you this endless scrolling list of options, it narrows the options for you. But I mean, it's all going to change and happen, but they want everybody to start using it. So that's why it's the kind of the big sell. And they're like, oh, you can make money with AI. You can do this with AI. Maybe. I mean, but again, it's not the AI, it's you, right? So people who are making money with AI probably have some proclivity to know how to make money in some way, shape, or form. They don't come to AI and just type in, how do I make money? Whenever you do that in AI, it gives you a bunch of crappy answers. And so you have to come in with some knowledge in order to have it find, go in and search that data to pull out knowledge that you might not know. But you have to have some direction. You know what I mean? You have to give it some direction. It's kind of like, a speedy child who, knows the encyclopedia, can give you answers really quick.
Hmm.
But eventually all that's going to, it's going to evolve, and it's an evolving at a really, really fast pace. So, next year will be a different story. But they're putting all the doom and gloom into the world to say, oh, AI is going to do this and AI is going to do that. And the realities are maybe, and maybe it'll do some things better than others. And maybe, I haven't found an AI. So one of the things I wanted to do, I've been doing podcasts for a really long time. And I said, listen to all my podcasts and give me a synopsis of them. Can't do it. Can't
I
do it.
think
Right. So
I,
it's like, oh, I can't listen to podcasts. Well, why not? You're AI, right? Well, because there's limitations still. So it's interesting where it's going, but it's eventually it will get there. But they're telling you it's already there when it's not.
I think for me, I have mixed feelings about AI. I think it's an interesting tool for me, and that's, I used it when I was in school. I did. I did. I used ChatGPT for like schoolwork and stuff,
Hmm.
and depending on what it was I was asking it, usually did a good job. Now, it did have flaws in there. Another thing about AI that I liked is that I've kind of used AI for the podcast artwork because I
Hmm.
was having trouble finding someone to do the artwork for my podcast.
Sure.
And I was like, can I just design it? So I designed it myself, and I actually on Photoshop had this AI tool, and I
Right.
was using it, playing around with it, and it actually ended up making all these podcasts artworks that I had. So, but it took like multiple attempts, and you had to get very specific about what you
Right.
wanted because if you just gave like a very broad thing, it didn't give me, it gave me something I didn't want. So I had to be very, very, very specific about what I wanted. And it about, I think after like 20 attempts, it finally got what I wanted. So I mean, I think I saw Google came out with something like VO3.
Right. Yeah. VO3.
I think that's probably, in my opinion, some of the best AI I've seen.
Hmm.
I'm like, because there's been some videos I've seen that are just that I thought were real, and then they're like, "Oh, that's AI," and I'm like, "No, it's not." And then no, it's not. And then when
Well,
I
we're
was,
gonna get more and more of that. That's for certain.
and I was like, because it was real people talking, and it was,
Mhm.
and I was like, "What? No, it's not." And so that's the kind of AI that I found very interesting that I like is that the that kind of AI.
Hmm.
I thought, I mean, that's kind of more what I wanted. I tried doing it myself, and then they wanted me to pay membership, and I was like, no, I'm not going to pay
Right.
membership to
Yeah. Right
use
now
it.
they're
So
trying to
never
get
mind.
everybody. They're trying to cash in, right? So
Hmm.
because but the interesting thing about that is you have to it's just like the text-based stuff, so they have been able to get it to look through huge catalogs of images and then come up with images based on all those images, right? Just like you go through a huge catalog of texts, right, of
Hmm.
different text things to come up with the text thing. And so that's where we're at, right? So we're in that realm where it can do these things because it has access to, I mean, everybody, well, for you in particular, since you were born, every picture that has ever been posted on the internet of you is in that catalog, okay? And everybody else too, because every time you like join Facebook or Instagram or X or whatever, that's part of their rules is that they can utilize that information to build these things. That's what's been happening all this time, and so that's why it's so good of all these things. And there's so much content for them to have based on just what people have been posting. I mean, it's millions upon millions upon billions of pictures and videos and so forth, and they've been training and training and training this. Again, it's not super smart. Somebody probably took, like yourself, a lot of time to put in prompt to get it to look that way, especially for the demos, right? It wasn't just, they always like, oh, you just type in one line of text and you'll get a movie. That's not how
Hmm.
it works yet. You know what I mean? It
Right.
it takes longer than that. Now, text is better and faster than the video and the stills, but those are really catching up. And so then you've also got voice manipulation, so that way they can create people's voices and so forth in various styles. But again, they've had all this media, right? So the
Right.
it's still not. I wouldn't call it intelligence. It's they've had a really really good set of blocks and they know how to use them. You're right, but it is a tool, and it's a tool that more and more people will be utilizing. And I think the bad thing is we're going to get we're at the, you mentioned that you couldn't tell, at first blush. You're like, I don't think this is AI. Is we're at the cusp of not knowing anything is real, right? I mean,
Right.
it's gonna be crazy. And I mean, if you go post anything on YouTube, it asks you to tell them, did you use AI? I mean, that's an honesty tag, right? Nobody has to say yes,
Hmm.
but there's not going to be an easy way to determine at some point. They put in some safeguards, ChatGPT and so forth, for famous people, right? But for you and me, anybody could replicate us and make us say kooky things.
Yeah.
When we get to the point where they protect regular people, then that's when we'll know that we'll really know that things are not not what they seem. It'll be really tough to distinguish. And this has been happening for years. I mean, this is probably, we're for public knowledge of these kind of creations, we're at least 10 years into that. Now, prior to that was probably another 10 or more years where no one knew about it. Always have to think like that. I mean, we're getting into the point now where there are things happening in the background that you and I don't get to see, that we won't get to see for another decade, that they're experimenting with and doing. And they may trickle out little samples to see how people react to things. But the reality is the R&D is decades ahead of the populace. And then they get to a point and they're like, okay, we're going to release this to where other people can do it at a lower end, and then work their way up. And then they're still out front, right? So they're at the crest of the wave on all this stuff. And so it's only going to get more and more confusing as people go on. And so it's interesting, you talked about at your opening that, you talk about truth and so forth. That's going to become so blurred in the next 5 years. Who's going to know what the truth is? I mean, it's terrible in one regard and
Right.
fascinating in another, but everything is going to be this amalgam of who knows what it is.
My time's running out here soon, but I wanted to talk to you about your podcast, your podcast host for Static Radio. Could you tell me quickly about what your
Sure.
podcast is about?
Yeah, no problem. So, I'm a co-host of Static Radio with my friend Miles, and I'm gonna blow you away here. No, we've been doing this for 25 years, and so you're like, podcasting
Wow.
hasn't been around for 25 years, Bob. You're lying to me. You're right. Podcast has been around for 21 years. We were doing what was called internet radio for 5 years before podcasting. So, yeah, and we've been doing a weekly show. I call it, because no one can challenge me on it, the longest running comedy show on the internet, because we've been doing it regularly since we were in college, which has been a while ago now. And so, yeah, it's fun. Each week, Miles and I get together. We tell a story of something funny or strange that's happened to us during that week, or some weeks ahead of time or something, and try to make each other laugh, and then in return try to make the audience laugh. And so I mean, it's, for us, it's a lot of fun, and people seem to enjoy it as well. And so we just keep doing it. Isn't that nutty? And then as you heard today, I will pontificate on all kinds of weird subjects, but as far as Static goes, it's all for the humor. And so, yeah, I don't go off on AI diatribes or talking about DoorDash or anything too
Right.
much. But it's mostly just to see what's funny. So, and just stuff that's happened. Like this week, I saw a 5.5 foot snake in my driveway when I came home from the store, and that was a lot of fun to deal
Ooh,
with, because
my
that's not
mom.
something you see every day, right?
Oh Lord, my mom would have had a heart attack.
So, and then I had to work around him. I'm not a person that likes to kill things
Hmm.
for no reason. I mean, he wasn't harming anybody. He was just laying in the driveway, I guess, sunning himself or something. But so, yeah, I left him alone, but I had to walk around him. I mean, 5.5 feet is a very long snake. And we made a pact instantly. We locked eyes and we made a pact. I'm not going to kill you if you let me take my groceries in. And you know what? It worked out.
Yeah. If for people that want to check you out, what social media platforms do you have?
Sure. So staticradio.com is the website, and at Static Radio on almost all the socials. So X and Insta and Facebook and all that good kind, and Blue Sky as well, I think. So all of them, all the old and all the new.
All right, and for people listening, as I always do, I'll put all the links in the description below so that you can go back and look at them at a later time, and that they'll all be there. Bob, thank you so much for being on the show today. I've really this was actually real fun.
Oh, I'm glad. And I wish you all the best of luck, Noah. And I want to see out there that, I mean, find your niche and then just start creating, and, build your mini empire. And it may take you in a direction to employment, and it may take you in a direction to where you just have your own mini empire, which is not a terrible thing.
Well, I'm just taking it day by day. That's what I do. I've just started doing day by day and just going with the flow.
There you go. That's all you can do. But you'll get there. You just gotta, sometimes you just gotta put some time in.
Thank you so much, Bob.
Thank you.
So as you just heard, that was my interview with Mr. Bob LeMent. He was such a fun guest to have on the show. He is real funny. I hate that our time got cut off because I think we could have talked for hours. But anyways, that was the end of our episode. As always, usually for guests, I don't have surveys, so there's no aftermath survey or any survey responses for today. If you would like to keep in touch with the podcast and be notified of new episodes, make sure to follow it wherever you get podcasts. It's available on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Amazon Music, Spotify, Pandora. I mean, basically where all the podcast information is. It's there. Follow me on social media, Lethal Venom Podcast on Instagram and TikTok. If you have any ideas or just need inquiries or anything for the podcast, if there's troubleshooting or something that's audibly not correct, just send me an email, lethalvenompod@gmail.com. As I said, I'll put all of Bob's information in the description box in the About bio, so you can go and check him out and check his other social media account out. But I hope y'all have a great rest of your day and week, and I will see you all in the next episode of Lethal Venom.